Here is the translation of each paragraph into English, maintaining the original structure and avoiding slang, titles, or numbering. The first sound was the sea hitting the rocks as if breathing through them. Sophia stopped at the top of the narrow white alley, the sun burning the tip of her nose and the scent of salt clinging to her hair. It was as if the island whispered, "Stay." The blue domes shone like watchful eyes, and in the distance, the horizon spilled into bands of copper and gold. Summer here tasted like ripe peaches and hot dust. She gripped the strap of her backpack, adjusted the light dress that clung faintly to her skin, and felt her heart race, partly from the steep climb, partly from the sensation of being where she owed nothing to anyone. It was the first time she had walked so far from home alone, and every corner seemed to promise something that couldn't fit in photos. When she saw the studio, it wasn't because of the displayed canvases, it was the movement of hands behind the easel, a gesture both concentrated and free, almost insolent. Elara stood with her back turned, her black hair tied in a loose bun, stray strands tousled by the wind like strokes of ink. Her sun-kissed skin glowed with salt, and her bare right arm bore small smudges of color, orange, violet, a deep blue almost like the sea. Her posture was that of someone who knew her body and the space it occupied, feet steady, breath calm, a balance that made gravity seem gentle. Sophia froze as if hitting an internal break. The world narrowed until it fit within that rectangle of shadow and light. "Can I look?" she asked, her voice softer than intended. "You can," Elara said without turning. "The sun is cooperating today." Sophia took one step, then another, as if afraid to startle something delicate. The paint in the air smelled of oil and citrus, the breeze carried the cries of seagulls and the clinking of glasses from a nearby tavern. She approached the canvas, a sunset that seemed warm to the touch, long, confident brushstrokes, colors leaning into each other like mouths recognizing one another. The metaphor pierced her and lingered, pulsing. She felt her own pulse in her lips, a soft tremor at the base of her throat. "You're not from here," Elara observed, now turning her body and face, her gray-green eyes like the deep part of water. "American?" "New York," Sophia said, tucking a blonde strand behind her ear. "Sophia." "Elara." The name slipped out easily, like a wave that doesn't need force to break. Sophia noticed the lines of her face, the pronounced cheekbones, the mouth that seemed to know how to smile quickly and stop abruptly, the lashes speckled with salt as if they'd just emerged from a dive. Elara wore almost nothing that called attention, a plain tank top, a cotton skirt ending mid-thigh, worn sandals, yet the gravity of the place seemed to emanate from her body. There was a calm without laziness, a firmness that didn't ask permission. Sophia swallowed dryly. The air was warm and thick, and every unspoken word weighed like pottery drying in the sun. "Traveling alone?" Elara asked, taking 2 steps closer, just enough to shrink the distance naturally. "Yes. I graduated and needed to hear my thoughts with less noise. Noise is easy to mistake for direction. And direction is what? Sometimes, it's just staying where something pulses in the right place." Sophia smiled, unsure if the phrase applied to the sea, the art, or the sensation rising through her skin from her ankles, advancing like patient heat. Her fingers touched the rough edge of the canvas, and the texture of the taut fabric sent a shiver through her palms. Her body reacted before her mind could name it. It was new and, at the same time, as ancient as hunger. Elara flipped the brush, pointing with the wooden end toward the line where the sun fractured. "The trick is not to rush. The sun sets but doesn't fall. The color breathes, and you just have to listen. You talk as if you paint with your body," Sophia said without thinking, feeling her cheeks warm. "I paint with what burns. If it doesn't burn, the color lies." She laughed softly, a brief sound that brushed Sophia's skin like foam. Sophia's breath shortened for a second, she hid it by adjusting her backpack, but Elara leaned slightly closer, and the proximity carried a trace of lemon and fresh paint. There was no contact, just the promise that there could be, if either crossed the invisible line between casual and what lingers. "Where are you staying?" Elara asked. "In Oia, near the windmills. The room is small, but the window makes the sky feel like it's coming inside." "Good choice. There, the wind speaks louder by late afternoon." "I like when it messes things up," Sophia said, tousling her hair. "Me too." The pause that followed wasn't emptiness, it was a force field. The sound of a church bell rose lightly, like silver in the air. Sophia noticed Elara's shadow touching hers, and her heart answered with a hurried beat. It wasn't fear. It was her body opening doors inside, silently. "How many days will you stay?" "I haven't decided. It depends on what I find." "Then maybe you'll stay longer than you think." The light shifted, and the canvas ignited in a new orange. Elara gave a half-smile, the kind that knows unspoken things. Sophia looked at her hands, strong, with faint veins on the back, short nails stained blue, and imagined for a second what those hands did when not holding brushes. The thought was quick and warm, like a spark through thin fabric. She breathed, retreated half a centimeter, then advanced one. A dance the body learns without lessons. "Want to see a place?" Elara said, tilting her head toward the street. 10 minutes from here. It's where the wind first touches the island when the sun decides to say goodbye." "I do." They left. Elara's sandals tapped lightly on the stones, Sophia's shorter steps sought rhythm. At every turn, bougainvillea spilled pink over white walls, and the air carried the fine taste of sweet dust. Children laughed in the distance, a scooter darted through the alley like an arrow and vanished. A cat slept lazily at a church entrance, its belly rising and falling like a summer metronome. Sophia felt the skin on her back warming under the fabric, the cold wind on her nape, and a shiver ran down her spine with haste and precision. "Here," Elara said, stopping at a viewpoint where the island unfolded in layers, sea, cliffs, rooftops, the line of the horizon. "Close your eyes for a moment." Sophia obeyed. The world retreated to the sound of the sea, the whistle of wind on rock, the faint touch of Elara's breath drawing near without contact. Her skin noticed first, as if it had eyes. Her body mapped the distance and held it. "And now?" "Open," Elara murmured, her voice low like someone guarding a secret. The sun hung there, enormous, splitting the sky with a blade of liquid gold. The wind carried the metallic hint of the sea, and the hairs on Sophia's arms stood, forming a private landscape on her skin. The sensation was so vast it almost hurt. She turned her face and found Elara's eyes already on her, and only then did she realize how that gaze resembled the line between day and night, a border that demands no passport, only courage. "I've never seen anything like this," Sophia whispered. "You have. You just hadn't named it yet," Elara said, not looking away. "Some things we know before we learn." The silence that followed wasn't to end the conversation. It was for the body to understand words weren't enough. Sophia noticed her own parted lips, her tongue touching the salt at the corner, her heart beating in a hurried rhythm. Time did that beach thing, expanded and contracted as if breathing with the tide. "Tell me something about you," Elara asked. "Not what you do. Something that truly burns." Sophia thought of saying she'd always feared wanting what she wanted. She thought of mentioning a winter night when she almost decided to stay forever where she didn't belong. Instead, she said, "I love the exact moment the wind shifts. When it says something else is about to begin." "I like that in you," Elara replied, as if discovering a new color. To the right, two tourists laughed loudly, arms raised for a photo. The world reminded them it existed but couldn't dispel the heat rising through Sophia's hands, a pulse asking for gesture. She didn't advance. She let her body speak in small signs, fingers lingering a second too long on the fold of her dress, a shoulder tilting slightly as if asking for shade, a head turning slowly to preserve the light of the moment. Elara noticed all of them, like reading tiny captions on a screen. "Tomorrow, I'll paint here," Elara said. "At this spot, the light is unruly." "I like unruly things when they don't hurt anyone," Sophia replied, feeling the smile emerge uninvited. "The right kind of unruly only hurts lies." A bell rang, the breeze suddenly strengthened, and Sophia's hair flew into her face. Elara raised her hand reflexively and stopped mid-motion, the gesture suspended inches from her skin. For a second, they were caught in a small miracle, the hand in the air, the tilted face, the sun as a witness that doesn't judge. Sophia felt the heat of that near touch as if it were contact, her body responding with a shiver that raced down her spine and opened her ribs from within. Elara's hand lowered slowly, not to her face, but to the space between them, as if drawing a line they could cross whenever they chose. "If you come tomorrow, bring water," she said simply. "And this stubborn wind in your hair." Sophia wanted to say she'd come, that she'd stay, that her body had understood something her mind was still searching for. Instead, she just nodded. The words stuck at the base of her throat, warm and imprecise, asking for time. They walked side by side back through the alley, the distance between their hands marked by an invisible thread that stretched and relaxed with their steps. When they reached the studio, Elara leaned against the doorframe, studying Sophia as if measuring a path. "So," she began, with a half-smile. And didn't finish. The next morning, Sophia woke before the alarm, as if some part of her had remained standing through the night, watching the wind through the window. The small room in OIA smelled of drying laundry and grapeseed-scented lotion. The light entered in a thin strip, like a carefully written invitation. She slipped into a pale cotton dress, tied her hair in a quick knot, and descended the white stairs still damp with dew. The streets were nearly empty, just an old man with a bucket washing the sidewalk and a cat stretching as if the island woke in parts. The sea below rhymed with Elara's name in Sophia's mind, and that was ridiculous and, at the same time, perfect. Elara was already waiting at the viewpoint, with a new easel and a smile that didn't say, "I waited," but didn't hide that this meeting had an internal clock. Her black hair was loose, one strand insisted on falling into her eyes, and she blew it aside, distracted, without using her hands. Her eye color seemed to shift with the light, sometimes green, sometimes gray, sometimes an in-between like wet bottle glass. Her skin had the glow of someone who lived outdoors. The white t-shirt bore paint stains in places that spoke volumes about how she moved. "Did you bring water?" she asked, nodding at the bottle in Sophia's hand. "And an excess of curiosity," Sophia replied, leaning on the stone parapet. "The right curiosity is a compass," Elara said, aligning her legs with the easel's base, 2 firm taps on the stone to find perfect balance. The morning passed in a time that wasn't the clock's. Elara painted, paused, squinted to measure light, stretched her arm in a direction only she saw. Sophia watched, sometimes beside her, sometimes a step back, slowly understanding how the artist chose each stroke like selecting a word that carries a whole story. The wind played with Sophia's dress, the hem brushed her knees, and with every gust, her skin ignited as if taking notes of the world. She felt the sun on her shoulders and the salty taste settling on her lips. Everything in her tuned, her body was no longer a distraction, it was an instrument. "Where do you get that orange?" Sophia asked, pointing to the warm streak on the canvas. "From when I almost left and stayed," Elara replied, not sounding mysterious, just honest. "Some colors are born from what didn't work and, because of that, did." "And the blue?" "From what doesn't fit in a sentence." Sophia laughed. The sound came easily but hung in the air when Elara's fingertips accidentally brushed the back of her hand to move the water bottle from the easel. A minimal touch, a spark needing no brightness. Elara retreated a centimeter, as if recognizing the electricity and, out of care, returning space for them to breathe. It was as quick as a good scare, the kind that leaves skin alert for minutes. "There's a music rehearsal at Vasilis's tavern this afternoon," Elara remarked, wiping azure from her palette. They play rebetiko, sometimes mixed with something modern. It's cheesy and beautiful. I like cheesy when it grabs me the right way, Sophia said, biting the corner of her smile. At 7. The back table seems to hide people who don't want to be seen but end up being noticed. When the sun grew strong, they descended the steps to a tiny beach wedged between rocks. The water was transparent and cold. The first shock climbed to her bones and returned her body to the present with precision. Elara dove cleanly, without splashing, and emerged laughing, her hair plastered to her face. Sophia took a few seconds longer, breathing deeply, and entered gradually, as if conversing with the sea up to her thighs, navel, chest. They floated there, an arm's length apart, the vast sky framed by cliffs. The silence wasn't empty, it was a shell. When I came back to the island, I promised myself 2 things, Elara said, gazing at the horizon. Never lie to what I feel and never paint out of politeness. Have you kept those promises? Almost. I fail when I'm afraid. Of what? Of mistaking gold for glitter. Sophia understood. Her fear had another name, habit. A way of folding her desires until they fit expectations. Here, in the cold water, her body relearned how to say, I, with whole letters. She didn't answer, she just turned onto her stomach and swam 3 strokes, feeling her heartbeat in her ears like a confirming drum. When she resurfaced, Elara's eyes were waiting, not insistent but clear. There was a question without a question mark, and that was more inviting than any urgency. They left the water with goosebumps and easy laughter. Barefoot, they walked to their towels, where a vendor passed by offering string bracelets. Sophia chose a blue one, Elara a red. The man tied them with a fisherman's knot and said something about wishes that withstand salt. Elara paid for both without fuss. Sophia tried to protest, and the artist shook her head with a brief gesture. It wasn't a gift creating debt, just a way of saying, I'm glad you're here. By afternoon, the tavern smelled of herbs, wine, and grilled fish. The ceiling fan spun eagerly, but the heat was stubborn and came from the body, not the season. Wooden chairs creaked under familiar laughter. A musician tuned his bouzouki, another tested a rhythm on an improvised cajon. Elara leaned against the back table, as promised. Sophia sat facing her, at an angle allowing her to observe the room and, when she wished, forget the world. The white wine arrived chilled, droplets sliding down the bottle. They drank the first sip in silence, their taste buds translated what their eyes already knew. You always look like you're writing inside, Elara said, elbow on the table, chin in hand. Maybe I am. I've always been afraid of forgetting what moves through me, Sophia replied. Now I want to memorize. Memory is ink. What we choose to keep dries and becomes record. The music began softly, an old lament that turned the corner and entered unannounced. People spoke louder for a moment, then surrendered to a beat inviting feet, heads, and, eventually, hearts. Sophia felt the rhythm reach the table like tide. Unconsciously, Elara marked time with her fingers on the wood. Each tap made a short, intimate sound, almost a secret. Sophia thought of secrets and her own, and how some secrets are just desires waiting for names. The wind from the door stirred both their hair, in sync enough to draw an instant smile, the kind needing no context. Tell me a story you haven't told anyone on this trip, Elara requested. Sophia breathed, leaned slightly. Her whole body followed but stopped in time, respecting the line between saying too much and saying right. Yesterday, when you raised your hand to move my hair and stopped halfway, she chose the word carefully, I felt the world delay a second. And it was the fullest second of my day. Elara studied her glass for a moment, as if the water held answers. Then she lifted her gaze. The right delay is an invitation, not a wall. The notes quickened, someone clapped. Conversations wove into the music, creating a fabric that warmed. Sophia noticed Elara's left leg lightly touching hers under the table, not a bump, a rest. The contact was discreet, a live wire on skin drawing a direct route to her chest. Elara didn't pull back, nor did she press forward. She left it there, as if saying, if you want, it's here. Sophia's breath wavered, she lowered her eyes, smiled, looked back. The world had grown unbearably sharp. When night fell in full, the tavern lights shrank shadows, making the place feel smaller, intimate, as if each table were a shared secret. Elara spoke of painting through a storm, the wind stealing half her papers. Sophia described a winter when she thought she'd never leave her room, and how a silly playlist and very hot coffee became the first step. They didn't measure confessions, just let them come, one after another, respecting the cadence. And the cadence was this: approach, retreat a step, breathe, return half a step, test the air's temperature between one body and another. Do you like losing control? Elara asked carefully, like touching crystal. I like deserving the moment when I no longer need to control, Sophia said, with the honesty that surprised herself. Then maybe the island is working in your favor. On the way back, the alley curved as if designed to hide confidences. The sky brimmed with stars and a moon that commanded nothing, the warm wind pressing fabric to legs and igniting skin where it touched did. Elara walked beside her, their shoulders nearly in sync. Sometimes, a hand brushed another, as if the narrow space demanded it, neither pulled away hastily. The body recorded and stored like underlining a phrase in a book to be reread. They stopped at the alley's end, where a stone arch framed the studio entrance. Inside, everything smelled of fresh paint and wood warmed by day. Canvases leaned against walls like windows to different hours of sunlight. The floor bore pigment footprints, slow marks of someone dancing without music. Elara lit a small desk lamp. The circle of light carved a miniature world: brushes, jars, a shell with clips, the red bracelet resting briefly as she tied her hair. Tomorrow's light looks promising, she said, adjusting a smaller canvas. If you... She didn't finish. Wind rushed through the open window, rustling papers like book pages turning on their own. Sophia stepped closer, her fingers grazing the frame, and Elara turned slightly, as if sensing a tide shift felt more than seen. Inches separated their faces, and those inches had weight, color, temperature. The silence grew dense, not hostile. The next act could fit there. But they left it for later, knowing the promise could be as beautiful as fulfillment when timed right. So, Elara said, and the smile appeared on one side, exactly like the first night. It hung suspended between sea sounds and their breathing, just as someone outside clapped, calling a name that wasn't theirs. The next day, light arrived early, impatient. Sophia lingered before leaving, choosing clothes with attention she'd never given herself: a pale blue dress, thin fabric tracing a modest neckline, leaving shoulders free for wind. She tied her hair in a low knot but let strands fall deliberately, as if summer demanded imperfection. At the studio, Elara was already bent over a smaller canvas, the radio low, playing an old song that seemed to have sand in its melody. Good morning, Sophia said, and morning sounded freshly painted. Good morning, Elara replied, lifting her gaze. They lingered on Sophia's face, then descended, calm, to her exposed collarbone, returning unhurried. The island approves of your outfit. Sophia felt blood rise to her cheeks but didn't retreat. There was something in that look that wasn't intrusion, it was reading. The studio smelled of pigment and lemon, wind toyed with a loose thread on her hem, as if teasing on someone's behalf. Elara pointed to a stool. Sit here. Today I want to steal the color of your blue. Color isn't stolen. When we steal from the world thanks us. Sophia obeyed, letting her body find a pose neither too stiff nor too loose to betray nerves. Her hands rested in her lap, fingers laced, breath practicing a rhythm that wouldn't give away her racing heart. Elara prepared paints with ritual care, the tube cracking, soft paste on the palette, the spatula stirring until it became C. As she mixed, she glanced at Sophia occasionally, as if measuring shadow on a face unaware it was being painted. "Tilt your chin slightly," she requested, gesturing near Sophia's skin. "The light is courting your profile." Light is usually generous to those who know how to ask. Elara smiled, and the smile came with a step that shrank the distance. The brush touched canvas. Sophia watched her arms dance, the firm wrist, the tense forearm, the right hand moving like writing a long-awaited letter. With each stroke, Sophia was reminded of her own body, the curve of her neck, the cut of collarbone, the contour of shoulder, as if discovering herself through paint. The radio changed tracks, a drowsy guitar entered, and the outside sky seemed to agree. "Have you always had this calm?" Sophia asked. "I learned to breathe at the pace of what I love," Elara said, eyes on the canvas. "The rest is noise. And I always mistook noise for presence. Not today." The wind lifted the hem of the dress slightly, and Sophia felt the fabric brush against her chest, sending a shiver racing down her spine. She crossed and uncrossed her legs, a gesture that could have been either comfort or restlessness. Elara noticed, not because she was staring, but because she was good at reading invisible anatomies. Instead of commenting, she changed the music, turned the volume up slightly, and let a Greek chorus spill into the air like olive oil. Then, she set the brush aside and picked up a cloth. "Come here for a second." Sophia approached, unsure exactly what for. "What?" "A territory that only appears up close." Elara raised the cloth and, with her other hand, lightly touched Sophia's shoulder, adjusting her position. The touch was brief but whole. Sophia's skin responded with that silent electricity that needs no explanation. Elara stepped back half a pace, returning to her brushes, as if affirming the rule they were writing without words: approach, confirm, return the air. The tension stretched a thread, beautiful and alive, between them. "Tonight, there's an open-air cinema in Imirovigli Square," Elara said, almost casually. "They're showing a summer film, the kind where you already know the ending and that's why you want to see the scenes." "I like endings that don't ruin the middle," Sophia replied. "I'd go if you went. I'll go if you come." It was decided like that, between the lines. Until then, Santorini did what Santorini does: nudged them into narrow streets, made stairs feel like steps of a single breath, offered shade when the sun burned. They stopped at a ceramics shop. Sophia ran her fingers over a mug with an imperfect rim, and Elara said flawed objects hold memories better. They bought figs and shared them right there, fingers sticky with sweetness, laughter effortless. Several times, one hand sought the other almost unconsciously, sometimes finding it, sometimes pausing midair, as if the air were a cushion where the gesture could rest. When night fell, the open-air cinema felt like a very simple dream: wooden chairs, a white sheet as a screen, bulbs strung on a wire, and a projector grumbling with fatigue. The air smelled of cinnamon popcorn and citronella. Elara chose 2 side-by-side seats, not too central, the kind of choice that eases pressure. Sophia sat, the dress's neckline traced a valley of soft light, and Elara let her eyes linger there for a second, the kind that doesn't trespass, just recognizes territory. "Comfortable?" "Now I am." The film began with a silly song, and the audience laughed at a joke that wasn't much. Everything helped: the warm night, the whispers behind them, the breeze from the hills brushing their napes. Sophia rested her hands on her thighs, leaning forward slightly, and Elara, in a slow gesture, let her hand slide along the chair's edge until it lightly grazed Sophia's fingers. It was almost nothing. It was everything. Sophia's hand didn't retreat, it opened, offering, and their hands touched with the delicacy of testing a lake's temperature before diving. They stayed like that, minimal contact that, inside, ignited paths. "I was afraid of looking at you too much," Sophia said, eyes still on the white sheet turned sea. "I was afraid of looking too little," Elara replied, voice just as soft. Afraid of seeming distracted from what matters. A scene showed two characters walking a deserted beach. No one noticed how, in the cinema's half-light, Sophia and Elara adjusted their posture to sit closer, an angle that let them feel each other's warmth without claiming space. Elara's thumb traced a semicircle on Sophia's hand, a brief caress in cursive script saying, "I'm here." Sophia inhaled, her chest rising, and Elara noticed from the corner of her eye, that rise and fall marking time like a metronome. Mid-film, a stronger wind tousled the sheet and their hair, and someone hastily taped the screen in place. The bulb swayed, and for a moment, it seemed the sky's ceiling dipped to kiss the square. Elara turned to comment on the scene and found Sophia's eyes so close the words dissolved. The world shrank, sound retreated, and there were only two people and a question asking for consent with all the delicacy in the world. "May I?" Elara asked, and the word was a harbor. "You may," Sophia answered, firm in a new way. The first kiss came without spectacle, and perhaps that's why it was perfect. It wasn't long or urgent, it was right. Their lips met as if confirming something already alive, waiting for a name. There was no rush, but there was heat, a slow, attentive warmth spreading across faces, necks, shoulders, places that hold memories without captions. Their hands stayed clasped, no tightness, and Sophia felt the world click silently, like a door aligning with its frame. When they parted, the screen showed a horizon, and the coincidence was almost funny. They laughed softly, like sharing an ancient secret. The film continued, but now seemed less urgent. They were busy memorizing small things, citronella mixed with Elara's lemon scent, steady breathing, the softness of a lower lip, the way a chin retreated a millimeter before advancing again. A couple left 2 rows ahead, someone dropped popcorn, a child asked for water. Everything fit into the same night. On the way back, the alley resumed its vocation for hiding confessions. The moon was high, outlining rooftops like charcoal sketches. Sophia felt light, as if old weights had found better places to sleep. Elara walked beside her, the red bracelet glowing discreetly on her wrist. They stopped under the same stone arch as the night before, as if fate preferred repetition when it was beautiful. The studio was dark, but the smell of paint lingered, insistent, and the window let in distant tavern music. "I'd forgotten how some kisses ask for silence afterward," Elara said, leaning her shoulder lightly against Sophia's. "I'd forgotten how some silences answer better than words," Sophia returned. They stood there, breathing together, unhurried. Elara raised her hand and, this time, completed the gesture, gently moved a strand of hair from Sophia's face and let her fingertips rest for a second on the curve of her ear. It was a small touch, but inside it lay a decision. Sophia closed her eyes briefly and, upon opening them, found more than an invitation, she found a direction. She leaned in again, and the kiss now carried an extra centimeter of certainty, a body learning fast when the lesson is true. "Tomorrow," Elara began, voice low, carrying the next scene like someone bringing a glass to the table. "Tomorrow," Sophia repeated, and tomorrow hung between them, elastic and full of possibilities. A noisy group turned the corner laughing, and the two stepped half a pace apart, just enough to rejoin the world without losing what was theirs. Sophia took a deep breath, storing everything in skin's invisible pockets, and smiled in a way that needed no translation. Elara answered with a gaze promising continuity. Their hands almost touched again, almost, and the almost was chosen with care, like knowing some thirsts ask for full glasses but also for time. "Good night, Sophia." "Good night, Elara." And the alley, complicit, kept the rest of what hadn't happened. For now. The morning promised heat, and the island woke with a new wind, the kind that sweeps rooftops from within. Sophia left early, her body remembering where the previous night's kiss still lived. She chose a light red dress, not a shout, a whisper, and tied her hair in a half ponytail that left her nape exposed. The mirror showed a woman beginning to fit into herself, and she smiled at her own courage, like recognizing a finished stroke on a too long canvas. When she turned the studio's corner, the door was already ajar, and inside, low music played, a guitar that seemed sprinkled with salt. Elara waited, her linen shirt open over a plain tank top, rolled sleeves revealed firm forearms, the red bracelet gleaming with movement. Loose hair cast shadows on her shoulders, and the scent of lemon mixed with paint formed a signature in the air. She lifted her gaze, first the red dress, then the soft neckline, finally the face, and the smile that came wasn't surprise but confirmation. "The island is painting you on its own," she said, stepping closer. "And I want to watch." Sophia felt wind enter through the window, cling fabric to skin, and wake a gentle shiver. Elara gestured to a chair near the light. She prepared paints unhurriedly, like sharpening words before an important conversation. The radio changed tracks, a slow piano filled the gaps, and the room began breathing in time with them. "Today, I want you to lend me what lights you up," Elara said, positioning the canvas. "No posing. Just exist. What if existing is too much? Then the painting thanks you." Sophia let her body find a place between care and surrender, legs uncrossed, feet grounded, hands resting in her lap, fingers touching like a secret conversation. Elara began. Her arm moved back and forth, tracing paths Sophia's eyes followed like trails on a newly discovered map. Sometimes, the artist paused and adjusted Sophia's posture with minimal touches, a finger tilting her chin for an angle, a hand lightly aligning her shoulder to the light, fingertips calming an unnamed anxiety. Each contact, brief and attentive, drew a horizon on her skin. "You have a way of breathing that changes when you overthink," Elara observed, not accusing, just stating. "I'm afraid of not being enough for what I feel. The feelings that matter don't ask for resumes." Tension grew in a good place. The red dress breathed with her. When wind entered, the hem lifted slightly, fabric outlining thighs without rush. Elara's eyes registered but never lingered longer than respect allowed. They returned, inevitable, to her face, that artist's gaze that seems to pierce but actually embraces. "Close your eyes for a second," she requested. "Give me what you keep when you're not watching yourself." Sophia obeyed. In the gentle dark behind her lids, she saw last night's kiss like an ember. It didn't burn to hurt, it burned to guide. Time, if it existed, unlearned counting. They were interrupted by street laughter, an impatient scooter, a distant church bell. Outside life reminded them of the world, inside, they redrew it. At one point, Elara stopped painting. She set the brush down, wiped her hands, and walked to Sophia. The distance shrank to where the air between them had temperature, scent, texture. "May I adjust something?" she asked softly, politely requesting permission. "You may." Elara touched Sophia's collarbone with her fingertips, guiding its curve into the light. The gesture lasted 3 seconds and a lifetime. Sophia opened her eyes and found Elara's so close she had to breathe twice for her body to understand it was safe. There was no rush, only precision. Elara's hand descended 1/2 centimeter, mapping a path to her shoulder's hollow, and stopped like marking an X on a map before a journey. The silence that followed wasn't empty, it was a door. "Come see," Elara said, leading Sophia by the hand to the canvas. The painting showed a version of her she didn't see in mirrors, more whole, sharper, truer. There was red, yes, but also the blue she only noticed when the sea sent it. Sophia touched her own chest instinctively, and Elara watched with a tenderness that needed no speech. When Sophia turned, Elara was already looking back, and the distance, once more, became the subject. "If I kiss you now, will I ruin the paint?" Sophia asked, laughing at herself, unashamed. "Paint dries. What doesn't dry is what we don't do." The kiss came with the sincerity they'd prepared. It wasn't shy, it was careful. Their bodies quickly learned the language of lips, the balance between firmness and sweetness, the exact pause for air without urgency. Sophia's hands found Elara's waist and stayed, asking permission with a light squeeze. Elara answered with a step closer until the red dress became part of the painting. The outside world lagged, inside, it advanced. When they parted, they laughed at the paint-smeared mirror reflecting a slice of sky. The laughter broke the spell just enough to make room for another scene. Elara opened a wine bottle, and they leaned on the windowsill, trading sips and short stories, the time Elara painted by candlelight during a blackout, the times Sophia watched a concert in the rain and understood some songs are born wet. The wine warmed them, but not more than what already burned. Tonight, the wind climbs Immerovigli's slope like it's in a hurry, Elara said. I want to show you how the island lets light die. Then take me. They climbed the narrow streets as the sun began tilting. The path seemed to listen, stones kept footsteps, bougainvillea collected secrets. On a nearly empty terrace, they sat on the ground, Sophia's body leaning into Elara's with the ease of those who've learned how they fit. The horizon exploded in oranges and purples, and the crowd held their breath as if obeying an invisible conductor. Sophia rested her head on Elara's shoulder. Elara pressed her chin to Sophia's crown and stayed. Their breathing sought a shared rhythm. Sometimes I forget life can be like this, Sophia said, not as a confession but as gratitude. Sometimes I remember I want nothing else. The wind picked up, bringing evening chill. Elara removed her linen shirt and draped it over Sophia's shoulders, fingers grazing bare nape. Sophia's skin responded instantly, lighting small beacons under the fabric. She turned her face, their lips met again, now with the courage of knowing they weren't wrong. The kiss deepened, still careful but speaking what afternoon had left unsaid. Elara cupped Sophia's face and, between kisses, asked wordlessly what she needed, her eyes, questioning and clear. Sophia nodded, almost imperceptibly. They descended slowly, as if carrying fine china. The studio waited with the kind of half-light that doesn't hide but welcomes. Elara closed the window, leaving only the small desk lamp, a warm circle reserving a seat at Fate's table. The smell of paint mixed with bougainvillea the wind insisted on bringing. Sophia leaned against the doorframe, the red dress crossed by shadow. Elara stood a step away, fingers tracing the air as if already touching, but not yet. Not yet. I want to go at your pace, Elara said. Mine is fast when something's true. Today mine discovered urgency, Sophia replied, her smile trembling slightly but sincere. And I'm here. Their hands met first, like signing an agreement. Elara's fingertips traced Sophia's collarbone, mapping its curve with a delicacy that raised goosebumps along the path. Sophia pressed her face to Elara's neck, breathing in lemon and warm skin, their exhales synced, pushing the world farther away. The next kiss pulled the room with it, Sophia's back met the wall, and touch grew clearer without losing care. There was nowhere to run. Nor any reason to. Tell me if. Elara began. Yes, Sophia interrupted, firm, eyes locked, no room for doubt. The promise of night entered whole. Layers of fabric, of modesty, of old fear unfolded in a gentle, decided ritual, like unrolling a map to finally walk it. The wind outside shifted, and the small lamp knew it was no longer the protagonist. The rest came with the delicacy they'd built since the first glance. The island, complicit, held its breath. And then, when some distant clock must have marked an arbitrary hour, Elara took Sophia's hand and led her through the studio to the inner bedroom door. The wood creaked softly, like a secret accepting its existence. Sophia entered first. She turned, the red dress arcing in the air, and reached out. Elara took her hand. The door closed slowly. The outside world stayed behind, and night leaned inward, ready to be spoken. The night inside the studio felt different from all before. The small desk lamp drew warm circles on the wood, and the rest sank into welcoming shadow. The window let in distant sea sounds and wind rustling papers like impatient diary pages. Sophia leaned against the wall, the red dress clinging from summer humidity, breathing as if she'd climbed a long staircase though she'd taken only a few steps. Elara stood before her, the linen shirt now draped over a chair, leaving just the tank top that revealed her shoulders and paint-stained arms. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence was charged but not heavy. It was the silence of a decision already made. Elara's hands rose slowly, as if holding something fragile, and touched Sophia's face. It was a small gesture but overwhelming, thumbs brushing her jawline, fingers tucking a strand behind her ear. Sophia closed her eyes, feeling the contact's warmth spread like a slow flame down her spine. "Do you have any idea what's happening to me right now?" Sophia whispered, voice low, trembling and steady at once. "I have an idea of what's happening to me too," Elara replied, gaze fixed on hers. "And I think it's the same thing." The kiss that followed wasn't rehearsal or test. It was surrender. Their lips met as if they'd always been searching, and time, which had dragged, now raced like a wave breaking on rocks. The first contact was tender but soon deepened. Sophia held Elara's waist, feeling thin fabric under her fingers, and pulled her closer with the decisiveness of someone finally understanding what she'd sought. Elara matched her with an intensity that surprised even herself. Her lips moved firmly but carefully, and her hand slid down Sophia's arm to entwine their fingers slowly, like sealing a promise. The air between them grew hot, and the wind through the window seemed to exist only to remind them of the outside world. But inside that studio, there were only two people and an ancient hunger being sated for the first time. They moved gradually until Sophia's back met the wall. Elara pressed against her, not forcefully, just certain there was no more need for distance. The red dress slid as if alive, and Sophia's skin responded with every pore, every shiver, every quickened breath. Elara's mouth withdrew just enough to whisper between kisses. "I waited for the right time. And I found courage now," Sophia replied, cradling her face. Brief laughter slipped between longer kisses, like discovering a new language and delighting in each word learned. One body mapped the other with slow, careful touches, as if tracing an unfamiliar map and marveling at every curve. The heat of skin, the taste of wine still on lips, the scent of paint and bougainvillea, everything blended into a unique alchemy. Eventually, Elara guided Sophia by the hand to the bedroom. The door creaked as if agreeing with destiny. The light there was dimmer, just soft reflections from the street. Elara settled Sophia on the bed's edge and stood before her, watching, breathing deeply, as if memorizing every detail before proceeding. Sophia smiled, timid and bold at once, and took the initiative, pulling Elara firmly to her. The next kiss held no hesitation. The minutes that followed were a dive. Every gesture was revelation, fingers gliding over skin, shivers at the nape, an unbidden sigh, breath speeding and slowing in sync. It was like painting an invisible canvas together, where each touch was color, each kiss shadow, each glance light. Sophia's body opened to sensations she'd never allowed, and Elara's responded with the calm of someone who knows how to lead without rush but also the intensity of one unafraid to want. Climax came like a slow wave, built over days, interrupted glances, half-spoken words. It wasn't explosion, it was ascent. A fire that started small and spread through every fiber until only skin, heat, and truth remained. When they finally lay side by side, still breathless, the whole room seemed to breathe with them. The world had reshaped, and Santorini's white walls now guarded another secret. Sophia turned to Elara and found her smiling, hair disheveled, gaze light and deep at once. She traced Elara's lips with her fingertips, as if confirming it wasn't a dream. "I'll never forget this summer." "Neither will I," Elara answered, drawing her closer. "And even if you leave one day, you'll stay here, in the color I discovered with you." They fell silent then, watching the ceiling like it was sky, listening to the sea as if it were music. There was no hurry to sleep. No hurry to wake. Only the present, whole, full, etched in skin and memory. And so, Sophia's summer in Santorini became the marker of a new life. Not just a fleeting romance, not just desire, but a discovery about herself, about freedom, surrender, courage. Elara had been the catalyst, but the flame was hers too. Hers, finally hers. Thank you for watching this story. Subscribe to Secret Garden Stories, leave a comment on how this narrative touched you, and share it with someone who also deserves to feel the intensity of a love that transforms.